Welcome into the Joe Cali Show. I'm your host, Joe Cali. And it's a drama-filled offseason around the NFL for many teams, right? Only a few left in coming up on Championship Sunday. But drama all around the league, especially in Buffalo. There was a press conference today from ownership and the president of football, along with the general manager. Now that that's under one person there, Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula. And let's just say it wasn't great. It was not great. I think it really dampens the luster of this Buffalo coaching job, seeing what you're going to be working for. I think it really, kind of just backed to 18-wheeler on top of Sean McDermott, a man who changed your franchise around for the better. And you threw Keon Coleman right under that 18-wheeler with him, and he's still on the team. So there were many things to point out. Those are three big ones, but it was a very interesting day, to say the least, at One Bills Drive. And it doesn't make you feel any better about the firing. It really doesn't. And I know it's one great hire away from maybe making you feel differently, but there's nothing about this the way this is going that's screaming we're together in this organization. This feels like a divorce, and messy divorce. Sean McDermott gets a little bit of a tribute. Finally, a few days later, he gets a video and a post by the Buffalo Bills. I had to read his goodbye message the other day. I didn't even know if it was real because it wasn't from legitimate sources. It was from podcasts and stuff. And I'm not saying they're not legitimate, but it wasn't the team. It wasn't in the NFL circles, insiders, anything like that. So you get that a little bit now when they post his, thank you, Sean McDermott. They post a video, a little hype video for him, whatever. They post the video, and it just makes you want him to be the head coach. I don't know. It doesn't really make you want him gone. It just shows you his successes, and even up until he ran out of the Jacksonville Stadium in the wild card with, see you at home, cheering on the fans, all of that. It's just, it's a weird feeling around Buffalo. And the press conference today, like I said, didn't really help any of those feelings. It, in fact, made it a little more conflicting inside for many. Terry Pegula answered questions. I'll give him that. He stayed up there. He faced the music, protected Brandon Beane as much as he could. He helped. And Brandon Beane stood up there and faced the music. I'm happy they did it. Now, saying that, it was rather short. It ended rather abruptly. I don't know if they knew the reception that this was going to bring 100%. I don't think they realized how much of a positive Sean McDermott was in this community. I thought they'd have a little more backing in what they did and not really have to answer for as much. At least that's what I've taken away from the way that went. And it starts out thanking Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane talking about his time with him, his time in Carolina, and how McDermott got the job here before him, and he ended up getting the job here, all of that. And the team they were able to build together and thanking him. So they both give him a little bit of a goodbye. Terry Pegula then goes into the firing, or it might have been before that. I'm not sure. He goes into exactly what happened and why the firing took place. And you would think, he'll bring up the playoff losses right away. He'll bring up, 13 seconds, all of that immediately, or just the fact that they've done it for so long and it's just not working. And he kind of does that second one, but it's very interesting how it comes up. He talks about, immediately brings up the Denver loss this year in the divisional round. Immediately brings it up. Says he walked into the locker room. Josh Allen didn't even acknowledge him. He was in tears. He was distraught, sitting off to the side, just taking it in, right? And he said something to him along the lines of, that was a catch, and that was that. And Allen didn't respond. And then he saw the state of the press conferences and Allen crying, Dawkins in the locker room getting emotional, all of it, right? And I guess he decided, yeah, that's that. That'll do it for Sean McDermott because we're going to get him out of here now. So I guess Josh Allen crying and a questionable call you can't blame it on that because they should have won the game any other way. But your quarterback turning it over 4 total times and clearly upset about that, I guess that gets your head coach fired. So I don't necessarily, I'm not really there on the reason he was fired. If anyone should have gone, I still think it's Brandon Beane. who faced a lot of criticism, asked about the wide receiver conversation on WGR 550, the local radio station here in Buffalo. And he said he just gets too passionate at times, right? Like, okay, sure, that's fine. But then finger pointing started. Oh, it was Josh Allen. It was not Josh Allen. It was Sean McDermott. It was the coaching staff who pushed for Keon Coleman. It was the coaching staff. Excuse me? What? And we got a lot of questions about Keon, and the answers were interesting, to say the least, especially for a young man who's currently on the roster. But regarding Keon Coleman, it wasn't Brandon Beane's first choice. Paraphrasing, but pretty much that. Wasn't what? You're saying that about a 23-year-old who's currently sitting on your roster? Sure. Missing practice and all of that. Not good. But I mean, from the general manager and the owner talking like that about the player, if I'm him, I'm starting to get on the phone with the agent saying, let's get out of here. And some Bills fans probably would want that, but interesting vibe. Then Terry Pegula is asked about blame and what exactly, how much is on the coaching staff and how much is on roster construction, weighing that. And then he just says he can't answer the question. That's a difficult one. Like, I think we're at a point where if he were to answer what was the bigger blame for the season, it is the roster construction. I think, right? Yes. Not having a number one wide receiver. Brandon Cooks is your guy to end the year? As I said in the last episode, the wide receiver room was neglected like a bastard child. It was. And it's just, I don't know. Like, for him not to answer that feels like it dances around the entire premise. And there was a point as to talking about, talented rosters have gotten them. He just starts uttering numbers, right? And they turn out to be the seedings over the past, 6 years. And he talks about how they've been getting to those seedings, like world-class organization, all of that. With uber-talented rosters, okay? You might be able to get me with that in 2020, at least for a few players. 2021, sure, but the Bengals murdered you in the playoffs, and you clearly were not ready for that. Like, I don't know. There was talent on these rosters, or as Sean McDermott used to say for the last time, there's football players on this roster. There are players on this roster. Every answer he gave in that, responding to the record and what they've been able to do in the playoff, get to the playoffs, all that, basically was, in my opinion, pushing that Sean McDermott shouldn't have been fired. You fired a coach that's been able to do that for all those years and make you that world-class organization from a laughingstock. And it was cold. I don't know. Like, it's just chilly wording, finger pointing. The coaching staff wanted Keon Coleman, and it was a very polarizing pick at the time, and now is even more polarizing with the way he's materialized on the football field. So it's just it was an interesting vibe from this presser. I don't necessarily know where I'm at with it right now. This is going to be a shorter episode today because it's just about this press conference, but it didn't really answer a lot of questions I had. Not at all. In fact, like I said, it just kind of campaigns as to why Sean McDermott should still be your head coach of your football team, talking about the world-class organization and all of it. And then we're getting into, well, how did everyone find out? Did anyone know? Did anyone know this was coming? Did you run it by your MVP, face of the franchise quarterback? No. No, they didn't. Didn't even consult him on it. Did any of the players know? No. None of them. And I get that might be standard for coaches who might be around for a couple of years. I mean, McDermott was there for 10 years. He made that team pretty much a brotherhood, right? His whole thing. His whole championship mentality, they were one family, one Buffalo, all that. And I don't know, it just it's a weird vibe. It's a weird vibe. There's not a lot of direction. You're getting head coaching candidates now kind of coming through the woodwork for the Bills. Reports are leaking out, as mentioned in the presser. Brian Daboll, who's reportedly emerging as a favorite. Joe Brady, they're going to interview. A couple other names as well. Anthony Lynn, who was the offensive coordinator with Rex Ryan. He coached a game in 2016, and he was apparently a finalist for the job when McDermott got it in 2017. Those are just a few names. I don't know. I still find it very, very troubling that they would move on from someone with so much playoff success and go into a year where you're going into another year of Josh Allen's prime. And this is a reasoning that I guess you could move off of him too. This is just the way I'm looking at it. You're going into another year of Josh Allen's prime now with a big question mark. And whoever the candidate is that does make their way in is going to be under an immense amount of pressure. It's essentially Super Bowl or bust this year. Super Bowl or bust. That's where we're at. You moved on from the head coach who's gotten you to the playoffs repeatedly, and probably if you gave him a better roster, so Brandon Beane, if you gave him a better roster, you'd actually be able to get over the hump. You'd actually would. You had, maybe if you did give up that 2026 first-round pick for Jalen Waddle, apparently too rich for your blood, you might be in the AFC Championship right now. You might be. Or, I don't know, you maybe try a different cornerback. I have no idea. Maybe do something at the deadline instead of trying to do things off of waivers post-deadline. But there are, it's just not a great vibe going into next season. And this offseason is going to be interesting just to see who they do hire. Again, all faith can be restored if they do the right hire, if they make the right move. Not all is forgiven, but you're on the right path. The uncertainty right now is really ringing true in a lot of Bills fans' ears. Not exactly great. I'm looking on Twitter right now, or X. A business office has a Bills flag at half staff. Half staff. I guess we found out your coach, who's built a culture, who's been to the playoffs 8 out of 9 years, and the 1 year was with a rookie quarterback who was sugar high 90% of the time, who honed in to be the MVP eventually. I guess one playoff loss because of a bad officiating call. I guess that could do it for you. You get to the divisional round regularly, and I guess that can do it. That might be the end of it for you. So, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. I still don't like it. And the way Terry Pegula was answering questions, I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of. And then all of a sudden, the presser ends. Abrupt. When asked about going back and forth on the decision, all of that, and he basically says he wasn't going anywhere with it. Like, he made up his mind. And then that's that. So I don't know if PR pulled the plug or if that was the end of it, but there is a lot more to be asked. Many more questions and many more answers that should be had. We're probably going to get more from when they do hire a head coach, whenever that may be. You have to wait till after the Super Bowl, and there are a lot of offensive candidates, Davis Webb, Clint Kubiak, who are currently in playoff positions to possibly go to a Super Bowl. And they could match up in the Super Bowl with each other, so you might have to wait until after to be able to interview them. So it's a tough look for the Bills, I think. The national media has already really jumped on and stomped them in every way they could. And if you can't tell, I'm speechless. If you can't tell. I'm just looking through social media right now. There's so many clips, national media going in. Just all of this. All of this is not a good look. It's not a good feeling. And they better nail the head coach. They better nail it. If they don't, the Bills struggle. Anything short of a Super Bowl is an absolute failure. They go out in the divisional round again. Why'd you fire Sean McDermott? Why? It's just a baffling move to me still. I'm still in a little bit of shell shock. Harbaugh, 18 years and nothing. I understand. A Super Bowl, he had a couple trips, I want to say. Joe Flacco, though. Mike Tomlin. Early Super Bowls and then just 500 from there. Okay, time for a change, sure. And I get that could be your argument with McDermott after 9 years. It could be. But it's not 9 years of mediocrity and wild card exits. It's 9 years of winning playoff games and, sure, coming up shorts. But every game you come up short is an instant classic. Unfortunately, you're just on the wrong side of it. Whether it be a coin toss, whether it be a catch or an interception on a crazy fluke play. But anyone coming at McDermott's defense, I got to say, 13 seconds, and even Pegula saying this. Like, where do we pin McDermott to? The defense, mostly, right? That's where he falls. After 13 seconds, and yeah, Cincinnati just beat the brakes off of both sides of the Bills, offense and defense. Not great. The ball's been in the offense's hands to end the games, folks. That's not... Defense got you stops. Even last year, Jordan Phillips comes up big in the Chiefs' AFC Championship game to give you a chance, the offense, to take the ball down the field and win. The ball's in the offense and special teams' hands to end the game, and Tyler Bass misses wide right a couple years ago. Even this year, overtime, the Bills' defense gets a stop and sets the offense up to be able to go down the field. They force a punt in overtime. They force a punt. And then Josh throws an interception. Call it what it is. It was an interception on the field. He threw an interception. The offense failed again. So if you associate McDermott with the defense and complain about the McDermott defense, I know, I get it. 30 points, it's a lot. 10 in the second half. Allowed you to come back after turning the ball over 5 times. 4, and then the interception in overtime was 5. Like, what more could you have asked for with the roster Beane gave him? And it all comes back to that. Why did he stay and McDermott was the one canned? It's a good question. Players not happy about it. Josh Allen, not informed of this. Pegula says he will be involved in a somewhat capacity in picking the new coach, so we'll see how that goes. But interviews galore for the Bills coming up. We'll have you updated on all of that. We're also going to do an episode later this week on the conference championship matchup, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Was this the right move? A few days removed now. Do you have more thoughts? Any more? I mean, you know where I stand if you've listened up until this point or watched until this point. So leave a review, listen or watch, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, on X at Radio's Joe Cali. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting time to be a Bills fan. 20 years to build it up and 5 seconds to tear it down if this goes south. So we'll see what happens. We'll be keeping you updated right here on the Joe Cali Show throughout the offseason. Whenever anything big happens, coming up to draft coverage, all of it right here on the Joe Cali Show. I've been Joe Cali. Thank you for listening and or watching, and we'll talk to you soon.